So what happened was you and Vinny got enough action going, and then you went and raised capital.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got to about 11 million run rate, and we had strong cohorts, and things were, we kind of bootstrapped it. We were literally
got it to almost $1 million a month in revenue.
Yeah, driving to BJ's, buying the diapers, doing
you.
selling them out.
Seriously.
Yeah.
11 million run rate on, I mean, at that point, you had somebody with a van going to BJ's, right?
Yeah, yeah. Not only that.
At first, it was you in the car, right?
It was us in the car,
That's
yeah.
all I needed.
And here's the funny thing was here.
By the way, kids, the most important part of this whole fucking story is this. When you're the kind of kid that grabs weeds for 4 hours a day, or shovels snow for 7 hours, or makes sets all summer long while everybody else is playing, you build a gear inside of you that leads to the humility to actually go and pick up the diapers at BJ's, even after you've had some levels of success, even after you made $500,000 a year when you were 27, like, my mom and I always make jokes to each other. When she does something, I'm always like, you can take a girl from Russia, but you can't take Russia from the girl. And that's how I think about it. Like, so many of my friends are like, why don't you hire people to like bid for you on eBay? And like what are you doing on the sports card thing that I'm hot on right now? I'm like, I'm gonna do the work.
Yeah, you do the work.
I do the work.
By the way, that's how you learn. You do the work.
No shit.
You learn the intimate details of everything. But anyway, 1,000 cases a day.
I apologize one more time, Mark, because I want value for the audience. This is why I don't begrudge students. I don't begrudge smart people or people that like to learn. I begrudge just staying only in classrooms and books because you never do, which means you actually don't know.
Yeah, I agree. We got up to 1,000 cases a day. Now, it was untenable. Like, you just couldn't.
Yeah, where the fuck? BJ's and Costco were pumped.
Yeah. Well, we would have to clear out multiple BJ's.
Were you making like backroom deals? Were you like, didn't you have to go to the managers and be like, hey, let's save each other a bunch of time. Why don't you just keep the fucking things on the pallets? We'll come and pick it up.
That's exactly what we started
doing. Of course.
Yeah. So, but here's the great thing. We had this deal where they would do that if we left them diapers for their customers. So we'd always leave them some diapers, right? Then we couldn't do more than 1,000 cases a day. It was just like impossible.
Where the fuck was your warehouse?
We had to buy from Procter & Gamble.
I get it. Where was your warehouse?
Like garage, yard, like
Jersey?
Yards. Yeah.
Love it.
So then we had to buy direct from Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble still doing 1,000 cases a day. Like, we're not selling you. We think it's not gonna work. We're not selling you. Like, dude, we can't buy all the diapers. So then we said, all right, you know what? We know what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to BJ's. We're taking all their diapers. I don't care if they don't stack the shit. Like, we're taking all the diapers. You know why? Because when they screamed at us and they said, like, you can't take all the diapers, and we're like, yeah, we can, and we did. And they're like, I'm like, listen, you could fix this. Just
call Procter & Gamble.
You can fix this. And they did. They called Procter & Gamble, and Procter & Gamble called us and said, hey, listen, we still don't believe in you. BJ's is a really important customer. They told us to sell you, so we will, but we don't think it's going to work, and we still think it's, And that's how we got Procter & Gamble. And then once
you got Procter, you got everybody else.
Yeah. And what's ironic is, like, just, I don't know, a year ago, I'm walking around the office and Procter & Gamble's in there, and I see the presentation and I pop in. I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, we're just talking about market share of diapers, how it's like, X% online and it's going to 70% online, and how people are never going to come to the store to buy diapers anymore. I'm like, oh. Interesting. Okay, great. I just walked out with a big smile.
Shit. Yeah, that's.
I'm like, oh man.
How much? Actually, this is a fun question because how much do you play for that moment? Honestly, on some real shit.
I love it.
Yeah, me too.
I
would argue with you that I believe that's the only reason I do what I do for a living.
Yeah, it's just
fun. That feeling.
That's so fun.
Like the feeling of all my team who was making fun of me behind my back for buying sports cards a year and a half ago, and I know them. I'm watching them, and they're giggling behind my back. Silly, he liked it when he was a kid. Like, it's not gonna work. To then like watch them all scramble now and like try to they're like all borrowing money from their parents to like put all into sports cards. Is like, I do it for that, not for it's the game.
Me too.
For that I told you so moment.
Yeah. I do fun things like that all the time. Even like go to the horse track, figure out a way to like beat the system, and it could be like turn like you can't bet too much because you'll move the odds, but bet $100 and be guaranteed to win like 120. It's really fun. Like, it's $20. I don't need $20. It's just fun.
It's just that you figured it out.
Did
you love the Monmouth
I used to
track?
card count in Atlantic City. You know how fun that was, going down there and like as a kid, as a teenager.
I'm
and
so
back
glad
and
I didn't
money.
have this math skill level. I would have been completely obnoxious. Like, I was more on like, I think like it's funny. I really have the gray version of this. I'm like all the things, literally everything that I thought America was gonna do happened. Like, for example, right now, I 100% know that straight young men are gonna wear makeup in 12 years. That male makeup is a real category.
Wow.
Money in the bank. Can't wait to show this clip in 12 years on whatever the TikTok and Instagram is. It's locked.
Yeah.
It's already happened. I know.
Wow.
The $1.20. Now, as you can imagine, I'm in the process of building what machine I'm building for infrastructure long term. We played it a little bit different, but very similar. But at some point, I'm gonna be ready in my career to say, okay, that's what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna start the Olay or the Glossier or the whatever, and I'm gonna sell it for $4 billion, and I'm gonna call you and be like, I'm ready to buy the jets, and let's go.
Yeah. Well, let me invest first.
Well, I may let you do that. We got to talk sports cards off. Like, it's about to get so uncomfortably hot the next 24 months.
Okay, well, I'm ready to come in now. I've been.
You know what? You know what it is, Mark. You'll appreciate this. Like, here you are sitting. By the way, because we're wrapping up, diapers.com goes and crushes. He then goes, he sells that to Amazon. He then goes and starts jet.com. At that point, because it was a great jersey, I always was like, at that point in my career, I was getting so much credit for this little wine business e-commerce thing. I was like, why aren't they looking at the diapers.com guy? He's done it way bigger than me. Then you start Jet, and I see that, I'm like, shit, that's gonna, and I knew, it's funny to hear the Costco BJ story, because I remember how you positioned that, and I'm like, that's gonna, and then the Walmart acquisition, which is a huge one, and congratulations on that, and you're still there 3.5 years later, which is an impressive part of the conversation. That was obvious to me. And now you're becoming almost like, now with the way entrepreneurship is, I mean, you literally raced Jerry Rice in the 40 at the NFL Combine this last week. I'm excited that you're starting to get some, I've always thought you were wildly underrated. There's very few people in the last decade that I've watched operate, and now that I'm getting to know you a little bit better, we had a meeting not too long ago, and now we're doing this, I'm like, oh, this makes sense. Like, your playbook is something I deeply respect. And I've always felt that out of all the entrepreneurs in this last decade, that you were quite under the radar. And, I don't know your personality traits, and there's plenty of people building $1 trillion companies that nobody's ever heard of. And there's plenty of people that have 1 million followers on Instagram that are gonna flop in 4 minutes that people think are good at entrepreneurship. But I've always really respected you from afar, and I really like that you like sports cards.
Oh, thanks.
Where I'm going with that, though, is like, I think the reality is that it's a skill that I almost feel like it's a skill that never gets out of your body.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here with you right now, you're 48, I'm 44, and when I tell you, I'm like, my God, like, we're gonna be having this conversation in 40 years.
Yeah, I know.
Like, we're gonna be sitting somewhere, Mars, the track, at a flea market, in a boardroom, and we're literally gonna be like, oh, we've known each other for 40 years. And we said 40 years ago that we would be sitting here doing this shit, and that's just the nature of the game.
I don't know what it is. I have more drive now than I did any time in my life before.
Oh, it's not even close. I think it's momentum of being in your spot. Like, it's not even close. I would take a shit on 28-year-old me.
Yeah.
That kid couldn't even compete with me.
I feel the same way.
It's not even in my world.
I feel the same way.
That dude sucks.
Yeah. I feel the same way.
I would beat the shit out of him.
Yeah. I could work harder now than I did then, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, anything that we didn't touch on as we wrap up here? Any parting wisdom for the kids and the not kids that are listening?
No, anybody who's thinking about starting a business, though, I would say go for it.
Right, because the loss is worth it, right?
Yeah.
Do you say go for it that blazant because you also realize that regret is scarier than everything, and if it's really in you, whether you completely, like, I keep telling people,
the fear is what drives you. So I also think, like, if you're scared to do it and you do it, you're gonna put in the best you've got. And that's what it's going to take. But if you put in the best you've got, you're going to make things happen. I don't know where it's going to lead. You're going to go through failures. You might have some ups and downs. But if you just stay at it and just go after it,
and Mark,
and
I think once people start making the world about happiness, not money, then this is going to make a lot more logic.
Yes.
Because a lot of people go for it, have a nice home in Summit, New Jersey right now, make $412 a year. Life is good. Kids in private school. Good shit. Jersey Shore house. Like, good shit. Good shit. And they're gonna listen to us two Jersey bozos and they're like, fuck it, I'm unhappy, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And the story for Hank is it's actually gonna fail. Because what Hank was a number 6. He was a number 6, a great number 6. It's the Scottie Pippen thing. Scottie Pippen is all-time overrated in my opinion, because he had a great all-time #1 hiding it.
Yeah.
And when he went to Portland and he went to Houston, no. And by the way, Hank right now at 412 a year is listening to us, and go for it. Let me just finish this thought, and I can see you want to jump in. Go. You have to go?
No, I have to go.
Oh, you have to go to the bathroom. So go. I'll finish this. Go.
Yeah,
go take a peek. So let me finish my thought. One, I find it fascinating that Mark couldn't hold it. Like, I just think that's all-time interesting out of all the things. Number two, on the Scottie Pippen thing, it's not to razz Scottie, and of course this is coming from a Knicks fan who's bitter. But Hank, if you're listening, Mark's right, not because of the money, but because of the happiness. Because you're 44 and your life is good, but you hate your fucking job. You hate it. You really know you actually hate it, but you like your life. What you need to ask yourself is, do you like your life because of the financial things that are happening and you look happy versus actually being happy? Because I can tell you, when you make that jump and you fail and you have to have the shame, and that's the word I'm gonna use, the shame to move your family out of Summit and move into another town. And you got a 12 and a 9-year-old who are now crying because they're going to a different school. And they went from being fancy to maybe less fancy. Like, that is a lot of carnage that most people don't have the stomach for. The problem is that nobody tells you is that at 72 years old, you spend the next 20 years of your life in regret because you weren't happy. And that is not fucking easy. And I don't say this lightly, but when I hear Mark say, go for it, I actually understand it, because I spend a lot more time analyzing what 70 and 80 and 90-year-olds say, and I understand why a 44-year-old doesn't have the strength to disappoint their kids, or to look stupid in front of their friends, or to like confuse the world. And it's easier at 27, even with a new kid, than it is at 44, which is why I love the internet. Mark and I are we would be totally different men in our careers if the internet didn't come along. If you listen to his stories, Google and diapers and landing page and $500 check and the pit, we are the byproducts of our age, of the entrepreneurs that had practical opportunity on the internet that would have never existed if we were 40 years earlier. That's what I want for everybody to realize. We understood that, and that's what we navigated on. You can have a side hustle too. So we talked about Hank quitting. Let's talk about Hank instead of golfing for 4 hours on Saturday. Let's talk about Hank instead of coming home and having a glass of wine and watching the news, the Daily Show, or sports. If you're really unhappy with what you do for a living, give me back those 14 hours that you waste each week and set up a landing page, set up an Instagram account around Star Trek or soccer or sports cards. Side hustle practicality with patience, where you build it, where Mark and Lev had to look at each other and say, fuck, maybe there's something here now. Notice what he did. He did what I do. Do shit, and then let the market show you there's something there, and then grow, right?
Like, you just gotta put the time in, right?
The time.
That's
this
the
goes,
key.
brother, it's the weeds.
Yeah.
It's pulling the weeds.
Too
Too many people are entitled and don't want to waste their time when their time ain't worth shit.